Welcome back, everyone, to a brand new edition of Virtues Rage with Dr. Jargo right here on the BigVitoBrand.com. And I believe it's also on her Patreon.com/TheBigVitoBrand. And I say her, not referring to Big Vito, but because Noel runs the show, steers the ship. Jargo, what's up, man?
What's going on, man? This is quickly becoming one of my favorite half hours in podcasting over the course of the week because I do so many stinking shows. But this one's fun because I get to talk about American wrestling, and I never get to do that.
And it's Virtues Rage, and I feel like I haven't really raged too much. And maybe tonight, this evening, this week's episode, maybe a little bit. We'll have to see where it goes. But I'm just going to start with the first topic. You ready to go?
I'm ready, man. Let's do it.
All right. So, as you know, Karrion Kross lost to Jeff Hardy on Raw. Not this past Monday, but the week before. A lot of things happened since. Jeff Hardy has COVID-19. Now, I don't think he's got any symptoms or whatever, but he tested positive. So, he's going to be off TV. Now, rumors. It's always rumors. I never believe these things until I see them. But that Jeff was going to face Karrion Kross again this past Raw and potentially beat him again, what are they doing? Making Karrion Kross seem like he needs another piece to his puzzle, and then Scarlett shows up with him and then he's unstoppable. But that doesn't matter because Jeff wasn't there, and they put together a match. Keith Lee, Karrion Kross. So immediately when the fans on the internet knew this match was happening, they were like, oh my God, this is a bad match because they both need wins. Well, okay, I looked at it as that's a good point. If you're, wrestling's a work, but wins mean something to build your character, right? So that's what we're talking about. Keith Lee he was off for a while. We don't know if he's in Vince McMahon's doghouse or if he's being tested, but he's been losing matches quite a bit. Well, one person had to win, Jargo, and it was Karrion Kross. And he made Keith Lee tap out. Assess the situation from your point of view as a Far East wrestling fan, New Japan type. I'm just curious here because this is so Vince McMahon.
You're right. It's so Vince McMahon. And I had that revelation I got the list of topics for today, and I'm going through and I was like, what does Karrion Kross get by beating Keith Lee? Is there any stock in beating Keith Lee at this point? Which led me to, what's Keith Lee's record in the WWE?
Well, I'm not sure. All I know is early on when he got called up, he beat Orton in 5 minutes. Randy Orton. And I'm like, they believe in it. They want to push this guy. Because the process of NXT, mm-hmm. They have their runs down there and then they come up to the main roster. And in some instances, it doesn't work out because Vince McMahon doesn't see a star, or then he might just see a mid-carder. But, we had Kevin Owens, Nakamura and Sami Zayn really never made it, but they've had good matches in the mid-card, intercontinental level. So it's kind of like a pick and choose. But here's Keith Lee now, off TV for a while, and now he's losing all matches.
Keith Lee's record in the WWE is 14, 16, and 2.
Is that main roster?
The main roster. 14, 16, and 2. So you want to talk about 50-50 booking? That's the very definition right there. 14, 16, and 2.
Hey, and what's Karrion Kross on the main roster now? 1-1.
1-1.
50-50 booking. I didn't even know what Keith Lee's record would have been there. So he must have had some good wins early on in that run. And I bet he's accumulated those losses recently.
But this is why nobody gets over in the WWE.
I know. Control their own. Yeah.
So to me, Karrion Kross versus Keith Lee on paper, that sounds like a good matchup to me. I'm a firm believer in styles make fights, and they have two styles that complement one another very, very well. Even though I'm not really a big fan of Kross being the guy who has to work from underneath. It just doesn't really work for his character. Yeah. But when you look at it inside of the booking lexicon of the WWE, who gets over in this match? Nobody gets over when you're in a match where you've got a guy who just lost to Jeff Hardy last week, and you've got a guy who's basically just settled into the mid card at this point. And that's what Keith Lee is being used as, is a mid carder. Now we can debate the merits of that and what's going on backstage and everything with Keith Lee. But I just, to me, it's a bad matchup because no matter how you slice it, nobody is going to get over in that match.
So why are they doing this with Kross, with him still being the NXT champion? Now, I know when Kevin Owens debuted and had that little thing with Cena, he was the NXT champion. He ended up losing it to, I don't know if it was Sami Zayn or somebody before he finally became a main roster guy, a permanent guy. But what's this agenda by having Karrion Kross still be in NXT as their champion, but like sneaking him on Raw, not as the full get up either? No Scarlett, a little bit dumbed down entrance, which is kind of what his gimmick is.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing, right? Because I think Karrion Kross is going to follow that same recipe. Like, he's going to drop the NXT championship to Samoa Joe at TakeOver 36, and then he'll just be on the main roster full time, right? Like, but now you're defining NXT once again as developmental after they've been saying for 2 years now, we're not developmental now that we're on USA. Like, we're our own brand now. No, you're still being used as developmental.
Charlotte was their women's champion after winning the Rumble and challenging Rhea Ripley. So that proves that they thought it was a third brand.
Yeah, and now they don't even count that title reign for Charlotte.
Nope. You know, and her original NXT run too.
Yeah, which I have a feeling that has a lot more to do with John Cena than anything else. But
so you brought up Charlotte, and it's making me think of how she lost the title fairly quickly to Nikki Ash, almost a superhero. Come on, because of the cash-in.
Right.
We're going to talk about this on the No DQ review this week. I don't know if Nikki Ash is not comfortable, but you can tell. I mean, to the naked eye, that Raw pumps in crowd noise, and when you see her trying to be like that superhero, and 7-year-olds might like it, but you see the people in the crowd just sitting there when the volume pumps up, and you know, when you look for stuff like that, maybe a casual viewer or a kid won't notice. Any thoughts on that, or am I delusional?
No, you're absolutely right. And one of the problems with WWE at this point is they have no idea how to book a babyface. They have no clue at this point, let alone a babyface that guys our age is going to think they're cool.
Yep.
Like, they just have no idea. So instead they revert to stupid kitty, over the top. Like, there's nobody on that Monday Night Raw roster that is likable to me. I mean, even Drew McIntyre, they with the whole story time thing,
it's bad.
They book all of their baby faces to be marketed to 8-year-olds. And that's one of the biggest problems inside of that company right now. They just have no idea how to make a baby face.
See, Cena's that rare exception because he can come out and deliver to the 7 to 12-year-olds, but yet it's like SpongeBob SquarePants. He knows how to still appeal to the adults when he cuts promos or do whatever. But now, so the Money in the Bank thing I just briefly wanted to talk about Nikki Ash because she almost beat Charlotte, and next week she'll get another shot. This is absolutely nuts. But Big E has the men's briefcase. So one of the topics was you knew he was, before he was on the main roster, he came up through the ranks, right, the developmental system. He had a singles push well before New Day. Intercontinental champion. He was involved something with Vicky, I don't know if Vicky Guerrero, but Dolph Ziggler. I'd have to go back and look at the details, but he had a mid-card run with the mid-card title.
He was Ziggler's muscle there for a while.
Yes. And the New Day gimmick took off right after it failed at the beginning, and Vince turned him heel. Then they got over, and then Vince pushed him down everyone's throat for the last, 7-8 years. And he is now stuck to that gimmick. But yet we're supposed to believe they can make him a next top contender with the briefcase. So let me ask you this. Is it way too late for Big E? Is this just typical WWE? And what's he going to do and when, in your opinion, with that briefcase? I actually said he should hold it. I think you have 1 year. So he could hold it till Money in the Bank the following year. Maybe
Right.
the day before, however that works out. Which means he has an opportunity. Why would you not just say, I want the main event of WrestleMania?
Right.
What do you think? If
Um,
you even care.
Boy, no, there's a lot to unpack there. Big E actually played football right down the road from where I am at this little school called the University of Iowa. So we're very familiar with Big E in this market. He's around here quite frequently, does a lot of work with the community. I think that there is a real good chance for Big E to be a perennial heavyweight champion contender on the main roster of WWE. He has that kind of personality where he can do this.
Cena guy, isn't he?
Right. He can do the comedy stuff. He can do the character stuff. I keep waiting for the day when Big E turns heel and you can get a serious Big E. Like, I think that's what it's really going to take. It's going to take Big E turning heel to get serious again. And then eventually he can go babyface once again, but he's going to have to turn heel first in order to regain like a reset for that character. Cause you're right. He's very defined by New Day at this point, but he still has enough credibility that he can go out there and, happy smiley Big E is gone because you just ate his last bowl of Bootios and now he's going to have to whip your ass, right? Like he still has that little bit of credibility to him. So I think this is going to be great for Big E, but I'm with you. Especially right now, as I look at the WWE Championship and the Universal Championship pictures, there's no way I'd cash in right now.
Yeah. Because, I mean, he's cashing in against Lashley or Reigns. And at what point, does the baby and he's a baby face now. I know you were talking about turning heel. At what point does he take the opportunity to cash? Does he want a one-on-one match like a baby face would get versus the heel tactics of? But look how Nikki Ash cashed it in. She took the opportunity, right, when Charlotte was down. So, I actually said it would be nice if we knew WWE was able to get Roman Reigns and The Rock in Dallas. Like that's tough because of The Rock's insurance company, his Hollywood schedule. But, from that bloodline storytelling, that would be ideal. And then Rock would put Roman over on the big stage if it got to that. Would that not be something then if Big E cashed in right at WrestleMania after Roman did that and won it, and then the fans went home happy? Now, I know people like Roman now as a heel. So, like, if he beat The Rock, fans would probably still be happy, but that feel-good moment. And some people were like, no way. Yeah, I don't know, pipe dream maybe. But when do you think you might cash that briefcase in, and will it be as a baby face?
Well, the problem with the Money in the Bank thing is whether it's a baby face or a heel, people pop for it because of the element of surprise, right? So, I mean, for me, I think that there is a story that you could tell with Big E calling his shot against Roman Reigns, where, Big E comes out and Roman's like, you want to cash in now? And Big E's like, no, I'm just letting you know that on this day at this time, I'm going to acknowledge you and I'm going to take away the Universal Championship. Like, I feel like you could do that as a baby face, and you could still have like happy kind of joking around Big E until it was time to get serious. And then he could break it down for Roman.
It would be nice.
Easy.
Yeah. If he said that now, like, I know they have the whole Finn Balor thing going on, but like, imagine if Big E came out like on SmackDown last week when Balor confronted Reigns declined Cena. We know where that's heading. And Big E said, don't forget about me. I'll acknowledge you when it's ready. And then just kind of disappear for a while. But they can't think of stuff like that, man. Simple. It's easy. 101.
What is the Finn Balor thing? Because that really has me kind of thrown for a loop. Like it made sense to me that you do Roman and Cena at SummerSlam. You do Roman and Rock at WrestleMania. Like things seem like pretty cut and dry. Where does Finn Balor fit into this? Why does Finn Balor fit into this?
Here's my not my rumors, but my opinions here. Now, I know the dirty sheets, the Vince Russo, Billy Body. I don't know how accurate some of his stuff are, but he's like, you're wrong on everything. when I posted that whole Big E scenario, Reigns' path of destruction through Balor, Cena, Rock. And then I was like, oh, so is Roman losing the Universal title sooner rather than later? He's like, opposite. And I said, okay, so that means Roman's keeping the title for a while, which is how else is he going to get to that point by going through all the people I just mentioned? That's neither here nor there. My thoughts on Balor, it's either going to be a SmackDown filler against just normal Finn Balor, or do they bring the Demon back for a triple threat at SummerSlam just to make people think, what the hell's going to go on? And only I say that because Cena's been in Hollywood. What's his cardio, his ring condition? Could it be to protect him so he doesn't get blown up and maybe botched? So having the 3 guys in the match, I don't know. But those are my 2 scenarios. Or it's there for after SummerSlam. If Reigns beats Cena, now Reigns as a program with Balor after SummerSlam. It's one of those 3 things. What do you think out of those 3?
To me, the thing that really stood out about Balor is because my brain immediately went to the triple threat scenario as well. Okay. And to me, that puts the title either on Balor or on Cena without Roman taking a loss. And then you could have, and this all kind of plays in together, Big E cash in on either Cena or Finn Balor, and then you're still saving Big E versus Roman Reigns, which seems like a much bigger match further down the road at some point. But then there's the whole Rock thing, right? Because, and I guess the real question for me is, does the head of the table bloodline Rock versus Roman Reigns WrestleMania, does that have to have the title attached to it? Like, that program feels bigger than the title. Couldn't you have 2 separate programs there?
I see, because someone told me that on Twitter, and I said, okay, I see that point, because the Rock is so big, you don't need a title. But then I'm thinking head of the table, head of the Samoan dynasty, that goal, like the Mafia, the Godfather, that goal just kind of represents that, like, defining achievement, like, as the head of the table. So in this instance, I would say I like Roman keeping that title all the way. Plus, imagine him having a super long reign, getting to the Rock, people actually thinking a Rock will pick it up and then maybe drop it right away or whatever. But Reigns beats him and you're like, oh my God, nobody is going to beat Reigns. Now you can make your next star. But is WWE smart enough to figure out who their next star is going to be?
Well, the
torch, remember?
Right.
Andre Hogan and the
thing
stuff.
The thing that always included the championship for me with the Rock and Roman was the fact that you can't have Roman lose before he gets to the Rock. Like, you can't do it, right? Like, he has to be dominant. But if you do a triple threat, he doesn't have to lose. So now I see this opportunity to where you can actually have 2 kind of main event programs rather than just the one. And I feel like Finn Balor is just kind of the vessel to either be there to become the Universal Champion, or he's just the pin eater for John Cena to get number 17.
If he got into that, if it became a triple.
Right.
Is it Demon or regular?
Well, the thing I did not like about this at all was Paul Heyman, who I typically love. Yeah. Because he's all whispering in Roman's ear, and he's very confidently, right? When I think back to the last run of Brock Lesnar, one of his best matches, one of his most difficult matches was against Finn Balor. Like, I feel like Paul Heyman, like, Roman should have been like laughing like he was and then being like, yeah, I want to do that. And Paul Heyman being like, maybe you should rethink this a little bit. Like, don't overestimate Balor. Just the way that whole segment came across, I didn't think was very beneficial to Finn, which tells me he's probably a pin eater if they end up going triple threat.
And we'll have to see how this plays out. I mean, I'm sure we'll get the next chapter on SmackDown because right now, Roman denied Cena his match at SummerSlam. All right.
And one more thing. As for the Demon is still unbeaten inside of the WWE.
That's so
I don't know if you want to go there, or if you got to me, if you're going to bring out the demon, it can't be about the championship. It has to be something very, very personal that Finn has to bring out the demon. This does not feel like that situation to me.
Yeah, because it was just all of a sudden Finn Balor's back from NXT in the main event scene of SmackDown. It was like, and they do need to, like, I don't know if they're being reactionary. Like, do you think this has anything to do with the rumors of Punk and Bryan signing with AEW? Now WWE is like, well, we still got Rollins, Owens, Finn. Let's start elevating these guys, from that Ring of Honor society. You think that had anything to do with this, or was this already planned?
I think this very well could be reactionary to AEW really stepping up their game the last few weeks. They're up to like 1.2 million viewers now. I mean,
1.15, I think, is last
1.15.
Well, that might have been the overnight. So I don't know what the final number. It might have been 1.2.
But so what do we got that we can kind of counteract that with? Well, we've got the guy who actually founded the Bullet Club, who started all this bullshit. Let's push him in the main event and have Roman squash him.
Yeah, there you go. Now, this one just really, like, you're a New Japan fan, right?
Indeed.
What's your take on death matches? And I know we've had them in Japan in the past. Right. And in the indie scene today, very niche, we have guys like Nick Gage. So what's your thoughts just in general on that portion of wrestling, if you want to even call it that?
Well, I think there is a certain art to a death match. But unfortunately, I feel like 99% of death matches don't capture that art. You know what I mean? I'm not a fan of the medium. The hardcore thing has never really been my cup of tea. But I assume that this is a conversation leading to Nick Gage versus Chris Jericho tonight on TNT.
Yeah, because, well, first of all, Zack Ryder, Matt Cardona, beat Nick Gage in that little GCW, Game Changer Wrestling, in a death match to win that title. So thoughts on him, Ryder, a TV star, doing that. And then, of course, yes, Jericho going to be working. Now, I don't know exactly how big of a death match this is going to be on AEW on TNT between Gage and Jericho. But yes, then your thoughts on that. I'm just shocked with Jericho doing that, unless you had to bring the Painmaker back, which is what he's promoting.
I think there's clearly a market for deathmatch wrestling. I am just not in that market. The only thing I have seen from the Matt Cardona versus Nick Gage match was the post-match melee.
That's the fan base, though. That's what they do.
Yep. And to me, that's just not. I'm just not a fan of it. I wasn't a fan of it when they were doing it in WCW in 1996. I'm sure as hell not a fan of it now. And I don't think that's good heat either. I know there are some people that seem to, well, look, he's getting heat. No, I don't think that's what was going on there. As for tonight, I'm very intrigued because there is an element of the AEW audience that crosses over with that deathmatch Nick Gage fan base, right? I mean, clearly with Jon Moxley.
Yep.
Nick Gage cannot have a Nick Gage match on TNT.
Nope.
There's just, and he's not going to have that match against Chris Jericho. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm very interested how far they try to push the envelope.
Like if the pizza cutter's brought out, it will be dulled and it will be Jericho slicing his own forehead open.
The light tubes, that's the one that gets me. Like every Nick Gage match that I've ever seen has the freaking light tube spot, right?
Yep.
There's no way you're doing the light tube spot on TNT. And if you don't get the light tube spot, does it really feel like a Nick Gage match? So to me, like it's going to be watered down Nick Gage, and I'm interested to see how people respond to it. The thing that really just baffles me, though, Jericho's winning this match. Yes, Jericho has to win this match
because he's not done with MJF, and he's ultimately going to put MJF over.
And this is only step 2 in the 5 stages of the trials of Jericho. So clearly Jericho's winning, and that just takes the air right out of it for me.
Yep. I just can't believe. And again, I did say on Twitter, I got to see how this plays out before I judge it too harshly. and I'm going to do that. And right now, as we're recording this, the match hasn't happened yet. So by next week, maybe we can briefly talk about it. I just can't believe Jericho. Like, I love the New Japan run. I've said it to you. The Painmaker, I get it. Everything worked good. I know he has some critics saying, like Jim Cornette and Brian Last, like he can't do what he used to do. And well, that's what veterans do. They have to do stuff like he's been doing the last few years to make up for what he's lost physically. And it's working. Just my only issue is this AEW stuff. He was their first champion and the big star. And now I know he's trying to put the Orange Cassidys over and the MJFs. And I don't know, maybe because my mind's so wrapped around knowing Tony Khan's in charge. Maybe if he would have secretly been in charge and would have said, hey, Jim Ross and all the veterans are really helping me do this thing. So I didn't think he was playing promoter. Maybe that's where, I don't know. I don't know. It'd be fun to have that kind of money from Dad, though, to be able to run a wrestling organization. I envy him for that. So. But
absolutely.
Hey,
the thing I'm excited about tonight on AEW TV is the IWGP Heavyweight Championship match for the U.S. belt between Lance Archer and Hikuleo. Have you ever seen Hikuleo?
Won it, right? Against Moxley.
Yep.
He's coming right back this week.
Yep. Okay. Have you seen much of Hikuleo yet?
Clips because of all the different wrestling people I follow that watch New Japan on Twitter. I have not. So tonight will be my first full, right? And I watch it. I record it so I can go back and watch it. So I don't watch it live. But
do you know who Hikuleo is?
No, other than the name. I've seen his name, and thank you for pronouncing it to me. I have trouble with some of that. You gotta remember, my New Japan, what follows me over to the Japan is usually the Westerners or the Jay Whites, and I told you that.
Well, Hikuleo is the third son of legend Haku.
Ah, okay.
Now, ladies and gentlemen,
Tonga one of them too. Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, gorillas don't travel alone.
Yeah.
That the only reason I can think of that this match is happening on AEW television tonight is that the gorillas, the big brothers, Tama Tonga Tangaloa, the other two sons of Haku, are going to show up and start wreaking some havoc in AEW tonight. And the more Tama Tonga I can get on my television screen, the better, because that dude, if you're looking for somebody who gets it, somebody who's going to be dangerous with a microphone in his hand. Ladies and gentlemen, it is not CM Punk in 2021. It is Tama Tonga.
Isn't he the guy? They did some Ring of Honor stuff too, right?
Oh, yeah.
Didn't he kind of when they tried to do that? Remember that Ring of Honor show in New York in Madison Square Garden when Enzo and Kat, was he kind of on the side of get out of here, this is our place? Yeah.
Yeah.
Badass.
Yeah. Tama Tonga is a badass, 100%. He is the good bad guy, Tama Tonga.
Well, I will look for that. So great discussion as always. We're getting close to our 30-minute mark. Anything else you would like to add this week?
The only other thing that I am going to direct people to this week, starting on Saturday, if you go over to www.stardom-world.com, you can get in on the second greatest tournament going on in professional wrestling. It's the 5-Star Grand Prix. It kicks off this Saturday, and it is the Stardom version of the G1 Climax. So it's a big round-robin tournament, red stars and blue stars. And we're going to determine who is going to be challenging Utami for the red belt. I have said for about the last 3 months, Stardom is the best promotion going in pro wrestling right now. Their storytelling is fantastic. The matches are incredible. Go check out stardom-world.com, $8.75 a month for the finest in women's wrestling anywhere on the planet.
And I'm all for tournaments as long as WWE doesn't do them, because they're the ones that just don't do them right.
Well, yeah, now I'm hearing about Queen of the Ring.
Oh, God.
And I'm just like, oh, my God. I'm going to watch the 5-Star Grand Prix and then watch Queen of the Ring, and it's going to feel like I'm watching developmental for Stardom. It's ridiculous.
Crazy. What's your Twitter again? I don't remember these things.
@NotJargo.
That's right. Simple as that. You'd think I would know that one. I'll probably ask you as a gimmick every week. I don't remember. What's your Twitter?
Yeah.
But thanks for joining me. People, you can follow me if you dare on Twitter @NoDQ_virtue. But this has been Virtue's Rage with Dr. Jargo right here on thebigvitobrand.com. Also patreon.com/thebigvitobrand. So for Jargo, I am Virtue. Thank you for watching on Twitch, listening on Anchor, or wherever it might be. And we will do this again next time. See ya.